Today I want to talk about PlayStation 5 Pro. There's a new leak available out there coming from very reliable sources talking about potential PlayStation 5 Pro specs. Now this new console is apparently coming next year and is going to pack quite a bit of power and new technologies. So let's look into it. But before we look into it, let's check in MaDz.com. They offer games for Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo and PC, and they always have a ton of games on sale like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, for example, or the Game Awards winners too. So how about we check some of these? So Alan Wake 2, guys, if you haven't played that game, do yourself a favor and play it. So how about we buy one now, buy it now. Now you can add some more games to the cart or proceed to checkout. And all you have to do now is just select a payment of your choice. And that's it, you are done. So guys, in MaDz.com, link is in the description of this video below. Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So let's talk about PlayStation 5 Pro specs. Now there's a new leak available and it's coming from a very reliable sources. By the way, you are looking at an article courtesy of WCCF Tech. Link will be in the description of this video below too. But I want to focus on a couple of things. Obviously, check the article for full story. So the article reads: additional PlayStation 5 Pro specs and details potentially leaked, 60% raster uplift, 2 times ray tracing capability, and September 2024 reveal. So I would imagine that late September launch too, right? Okay, so let's check that article because it talks about all the details really. They talk about Tom Henderson, who actually was one of the first people to talk about PlayStation 5 Pro really. But before we get into all these details, let's actually check. There's Kepler too. I mean, Kepler is one of those tech guys on Twitter that he leaks quite a lot of information about the AMD technologies. There's Tom Henderson comments. We'll get back to it in a minute actually, but I want to look at this. So this is like a quick a kind of a summary of all the details over there, like basic details. So we are looking at PlayStation 5 Pro rumored or leaked information. So apparently the new chip for that console is going to be based on TSMC 4 nanometers, which is a new information because last leaks were suggesting 6 nanometers. But that's actually, if this is true, that's very good news. It means that the chip is going to be smaller and more efficient and that kind of stuff. CPU, AMD Zen 2 based 8 core, makes sense. They would not change CPU much because it would make it, it could potentially make it incompatible or no, at least not fully compatible, makes no bloody sense. But they will upclock it, so up to 4.4 gigahertz makes sense. So that would be like 20% increase in terms of clock speeds and potential performance too. GPU 16 compute units, that's what they say. NPU, this is a new thing because you can see Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 does not come with NPU. That's neural processing unit, and it has all to do with machine learning basically. Xbox Series X, for example, has the machine learning capability built into the compute units, right? Now, in rumored PlayStation 5 Pro, it's supposed to be a dedicated hardware. Whether that's going to be a dedicated chip, probably not. It's probably going to be a dedicated hardware on the chip, right? I would not expect like a separate chip per se, right? Makes no sense. So it will be all part of GPU, but not compute unit. That's a massive difference, right? We'll talk about it in a minute. Peak GPU, clock speeds, we don't know. Peak, obviously, teraflops, we don't really know that just yet, but there's some other more information out there in a minute. We'll talk about it. 16 gigabytes of RAM, same. 256-bit bus, same. Obviously, the memory bandwidth would be different because the chips would be faster. So 18 gigabits per second versus 14 on PlayStation 5. So that's significant difference. I would say like almost 30%. And that's pretty much it when it comes to like information. But there's more, but I'll talk about it in a minute. Well, the November 2024 is the potential launch date. Now, Tom Henderson was asked about all this stuff, and he said that he cannot comment on other people's leaks because I don't know. Internally, Sony is expecting full specs to leak this month because of dev kits distribution to third-party studios. Makes sense. More people will have hands on it, means that more people will talk about it too. Now let's talk about Kepler, because Kepler is the guy who leaks all kinds of tech stuff, and he says that I was actually wrong about that. PlayStation 5 Pro uses 60 out of 64 compute units. Now there was a confusion, I guess, because originally it was believed that PlayStation 5 Pro chip would come with 60 compute units. 4 of them would be disabled, just like on Xbox Series X, for example. Which means that it would end up with 54 active. Looks like that's not the case. Looks like it's going to have 64 compute units. What did I do here? Hold on. I clicked that. No, okay, I shouldn't have. Anyway, so it will come with 64 compute units. 4 of them will be disabled as always, and 60 will be active. Viola full config is 2 SE, 2 times SA, and so they talk about this dual issue kind of technology. I'll talk about it in a minute. That has to do with teraflops. Okay, so this is actually very important. So they say, there's actually quite a lot of information. So this is not necessarily coming from Kepler, although he did confirm the dual issue kind of 2 instructions per clock. Anyway, so what they talk about here is 4 nanometers process. That's the number of the chip. Viola CPU is maintaining the Zen 2 architecture found in the existing PlayStation 5 for compatibility. Makes sense, I guess. Also, but the frequency will once again be dynamic with a peak of 4.4. 64 kilobytes of L1 cache per core. I'm not sure how that will differ, is different from PlayStation 5. I wonder, I would imagine that they would have more cache. That would make sense. Viola die is 30 working groups, so 60 compute units when fully enabled, but it will only have. Okay, so obviously he did update that information, right? So not 56 but 60. So we know that already. Trinity is the culmination of 3 key technologies. Trinity is I think the name of the actual chip for PlayStation 5. Pro, fast storage, hardware accelerated compression, decompression, already an existing key PlayStation 5 technology, accelerated ray tracing and upscaling. This is very important actually. Architecture is RDNA 3, but it's taking ray tracing improvements from RDNA 4. BVH traversal will be handled by dedicated RT hardware rather than fully relying on the shaders. It will also include thread reordering to reduce data and execution divergence, something akin to Ada Lovelace, SER, and Intel's technologies. Now, this thing, thread reordering to reduce, that technology is all about like taking better advantage of the threads management, I guess. 3,584 shaders, 224 TMUs, and 96 ROPs. I think PlayStation 5 comes with 64 ROPs and way less shaders and TMUs, makes sense. Memory, we spoke about it already. GPU frequency target is 2 GHz apparently. This lands the dual issue T-flops in the range of 28.64 T-flops peak. Now this is interesting because this is very important. These are not traditional T-flops per se, because basically they double the number of T-flops by allowing two operations dual issue. So okay, so right here they can process 2 instructions per clock, right? But on top of that, they can do 2 operations on these instructions on top of that, right? So it's like 4 instructions per clock. So that's where they are getting it, right? But rest of the compute unit and stuff is still the same, right? So it's not a traditional upgrade to T-flops per se. So I mean, it will have you will obviously see a difference when it comes to any compute heavy kind of tasks. So it will come in handy, especially if developers will really optimize well for this kind of technology. And so I guess first part will surely take advantage of it. But traditional rasterization, you've got 50 to 60% rasterization uplift over Oberon, over twice the raw ray tracing. So really, generally speaking, I would say that we are looking at double the performance. In some games we may see double the performance or double the power, because the performance is reliant on so many other stuff like memory bandwidth too, and CPU also. I would say that most of that power, and I'll talk about it in a minute in this section, most of that power and compute will be actually needed for that. So that's why these extra 2 operations per clock will come in handy. That compute will be used for all kinds of like compute heavy stuff like upscaling, for example. And this is where the XDNA2 NPU will comes in, so that neural processing unit, machine learning and stuff, will be featured for the purpose of accelerating Sony's bespoke temporal machine learning upscaling technique. This will be one of those core focuses of the PlayStation 5 Pro, like we saw with checkerboard rendering for PlayStation 5 Pro. Temporally stable upscaled 4K output at higher than 30 frames per second is the goal. And really, if you look at this game, this potential console specs, it's really what they actually focus is on the GPU. So obviously when it comes to performance in games, so like 60 frames per second games or 120 frames per second game, like GPU is important, but you have to have a CPU, powerful CPU to handle that too. So obviously we will get an upgrade when it comes to clock speeds on the GPU side of things. So that will be at least like 20% improvement. So games that, for example, right now are running anything between like, 60 and 50, 45, these kind of games will take advantage of that for sure. When it comes to any CPU limited scenarios. But for the most part, PlayStation 5 Pro's main purpose is going to be offer better graphics and better, I guess, graphics and resolution, right? Which is fine for me, because really some of the games that are coming and have already come out, most of them have not only issues with performance per se, most of them are 60, but a lot of times the performance modes come with much lower resolution, and these games just don't look that great, right? So PlayStation 5 Pro main focus is going to be on better image quality, and I don't necessarily even think like better graphics per se, except ray tracing, because when it comes to the memory, it still comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM. So, you can't really push more into that memory than you can do with PlayStation 5. So it's just going to be, faster upscaling machine when it comes to PlayStation 5, which is fine, because like I said, like these current consoles are still great, I would say, for the most part when it comes to performance in games. So like, faster CPU still 20% at least, because what's the speed of PlayStation 5 CPU? 3.6, I think. So that's even slightly more than 20%, right? So yeah, I mean, I guess the real question now is, what's the price of that new console? If they will sell it for $500-$600, they will sell a lot of these consoles for sure. But let's just hope they're not going to sell it too expensive. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, I'm actually super excited about this console, and I really do hope that Xbox will follow up on that too, unless they've got some other plans for their consoles. I don't know. Either way, PlayStation 5 Pro is going to really not necessarily change much when it comes to gameplay and stuff, but it sure will offer much better ray tracing capabilities, and also much better image quality, that's for sure. And I think that's the main purpose. The main purpose of PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be just like PlayStation 4 Pro, more 4K games with better ray tracing. That's the main goal of that console, and I'm totally fine with that, right? So anyway, guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about it. Are you looking forward to PlayStation 5 Pro at all? Let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.